out of the 400 medication that exists for orphan drugs, like orphan drugs, only 200 of those are approved in Canada. So we are somewhat missing half of the orphan drug. All the expertise you have, we don't have access to it in Canada. And there's many reasons for it. One of which you may say, look, Éric, you don't even have an Orphan Drug Act in Canada. And that's true. I'm not proud of it. Like 30 years ago in the United States, they had an Orphan Drug Act. Singapore has one, Australia, EU in the last 13 years. You have an Orphan Drug Act. We're still thinking about it. That's a bit like the Canadian way. We want to make sure we do it right. But the good news is that most probably in June, we will have an Orphan Drug Act in Canada. The bad news is that most probably we will have zero exclusivity coming out of it. The exclusivity may come 2 years down the road, 2016. But let's say that in our Canadian way, that's a good step in the right direction. Saying so, in the presentation I'll provide to you today, I hope that I'll be able to convince you that it's a nice place to invest in Canada and patient needs your drugs and you can make money out of it. So to start, I think one of the problems we have in Canada, we don't sell ourselves enough. Actually, when we developed our national anthem, we didn't think about Orphan Drug Act. So I think we have a marketing problem. So I'll show you a bit of our national anthem and you'll see. Think about the marketing problem that comes with it. Okay, so the last time I checked, you're not developing any drug for polar bear. And if you look at the number of patients there is in Canada, it looks like nobody lives in Canada. So I don't blame you not to invest in Canada. When you look at this, maybe you have like one freak just like skating in the middle of an icy lake, and that's maybe the only patient you'll get. I'm biased, I'm Canadian. But in reality, Canadian, it's a vibrant country. I mean, we're thriving on economic activities, we have oil, we are a rich country, we are highly populated. So I took upon myself to change our national anthem. I think that would be better for you. We have people. So that's better, no? So actually, before preparing this talk, what I have done, I interview a lot of CEOs from your company to try to understand why there's so many medication that we don't have access to in Canada. And this is how I came up with the idea of myth and reality. So that's my talk. And so basically, as I said, 50% of the orphan drug, we don't have access to it in Canada. Why is that? Well, myth number one, nobody lives in Canada, it's too cold. Well, the reality is, and I show it to you, we have like 34.5 million people living in Canada. And if you look at it, so there's more population in Canada than most in the Scandinavian country. And if you think about it, if you add up the population of Switzerland plus Netherlands plus Belgium, that's about Canada. So, and I don't see any European company not thinking about bringing their drug to Switzerland. But we have more population. Myth number 2, medication cannot be sold in Canada before approval. Well, yes, you can. There's some pharmaceutical companies that are actually doing it. Most of you don't know about it. There's companies that actually succeed in making millions of dollars selling their drug before it's even approved. There's a law in Canada that says that every Canadian should have access to any drugs they need, even though they're not approved. So it's called a special access program. It's on a patient name basis. It's not necessarily the easiest system, but you would be amazed to see how much money you can make out of it. If your product is already approved, let's say in Europe, and it's an injectable, most probably the hospital will pay for it. If it's an oral drug, sometimes the hospital will pay for it, sometimes it'll be the patient. Private insurers are not paying for it. Provincial governments sometimes are paying for it even though it's not approved. So think about it. Many pharmaceutical companies have done it. You can do it. Canadian government controls price. Well, yes and no. If you don't have a patent, you can charge what the market will bear. You can charge nearly what you want. The problem with this is, you may get genericized. Well, rule of thumb in Canada, if your sales are less than $5 million, the generic industry won't think about it. There's exception, but rule of thumb, $5 million. And most of your drugs are pretty complicated to copy. If you have a patent, well, then we have the PMPRB, Patent Medicine Price Review Board. They will control your price as many European countries control their price. Canada, it's a low-price country. Well, that's a myth. The reality is it's a high-price country. As I said, if you don't have a patent, you can nearly choose your price. They don't control that. If you have a patent, the PMPRB will come in place. And we have a reference country. Normally, it's 7 reference countries. You look at the price of US, UK, Italy, France, Germany, Switzerland, and Sweden. They look at the median price. What does it mean? It means that you take out the United States, you take out UK and Italy, and most probably the price you'll get in Canada will be around the price you'll get in Sweden, Switzerland, Germany. This is high price. Clearly for the United States, everything else is low price. But in general term, this is a high price country. And by the way, for the price of your product, if you look at what is the highest price Canada will pay for a product, normally the older you get, less they will pay. The best product is if you have like an injectable for neonates or pediatric. This is where the Canadian government, not the Canadian government, the provincial government will pay the biggest price for your product. And if you look at the amount of money we're spending on medication, Canada is among the top 10 countries in the world. So can you afford not being in Canada? There's ways to do it. Myth number 5. Well, that's one that is hurting me pretty much. The fear about parallel import between Canada and the United States. I can tell you there's no problem with orphan drugs. There's no parallel import. Maybe you'll find me an exception, but in general, there's no parallel import. It's true that for normal drug, let's say like the Lipitor of this world, yes, sometimes there's some Lipitor that will be shipped back to the United States. But put it this way, Canadian government is not stupid. We will not shoot ourselves in the foot. If the price of a drug, let's say like a Lipitor, is higher in the United States than in Canada, if we just ship back those drugs to the United States, Pfizer will stop sending us any drugs. So we don't want that. So the government is fighting to stop this. Actually, the amount of drugs crossing the border from Canada to the United States is less than 0.5%. of what we consume in Canada. If you look at injectable, it's less than 0.2%. And this is going down. I believe that when the Obamacare will pass, it will go even more. So it's a non-issue. And when you cross the customs in the United States, they know that, when you see all those pharmacy.com, Canada, pharmacy.com, pharmacy, internet pharmacy, they're not Canadian. Most of them, the drug comes from India or comes from Europe. So at the American border, they're trying to block all those. So the reason not to bring a drug in Canada in the fear that the drug will be cheaper in Canada and sent back to the United States for the orphan world, it's not existing. And for not real drug, but I mean for drugs like Lipitor, it's 0.5%. And we are not able in Canada to manufacture enough drug to provide all the drug that they need in the United States anyway. Myth number 6. Canadian government pays for all medication. Well, Canadian government pays for nothing. The provincial government pays for it. And this is part of the problem we have. It's like, the federal government will approve the drug, and the provincial government will pay for the drug. It's a bit like in Europe, the EMEA will approve the drug, but the country per se will pay for the drug. And it's not because the EMEA have approved the drug that every country in Europe will have access to it. Same thing in Canada. Myth number 7. Market access is hell. Yeah, well, yes it is. It's pure hell. I talked to you about the PMPRB that controls the price of patent drug. I talked to you about the federal government that, and the PMPRB is not a problem, the federal government approved the drug, but what happened is the provincial government decide which drug they will pay for. So you can be a Canadian living in different provinces and not having access to the same medication. You can have a drug, let's say an oncologic drug, paid in Quebec and not paid in Ontario. In one province you have it, in the other one you don't. So what it creates, it's sometimes patients are just like driving from one province to the other one or moving to the other province in order to get the drug. But the province are getting more intelligent. They say, well, have you paid tax here in the last 3 years? No? You won't get it. So it's totally inhuman, but this is the system in which we work in Canada. So for a pharmaceutical company, what you should do in order to make sure that your drug are paid by the province, it's actually lobbying. I mean, that's how it works. It's really labor intensive. It takes time. There's no quick fix. You have to lobby each and every province and show them, why it makes a difference for the patient and all that, in order to have each and every province that will cover it. Actually, at my table, one of my friends said, why don't you work only on Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta, per se, and forget about the other province? Well, the same thing happened. If there's someone in Saskatchewan that needs the drug and they're not paying for it, and if it's a drug that it's whether you get it or you die, well, I'll receive a call and I'll have the problem. It's like, what do? Do you provide it or you don't? So it is difficult, but there's a way to do it. It's just that you have to understand the system and work the system. Myth number 8. No Orphan Drug Act means no protection. Well, as I explained to you, it's true that we do not have an Orphan Drug Act, but clearly you can act. In Canada, we respect patent. If you have an indication patent, we'll respect it. If you have a new chemical entity, we'll provide you 8-year data protection. That's not bad. So it's not because we don't have an Orphan Drug Act that you cannot get any protection. But it's true that if you have a repurposed drug you will not get the protection you're getting in the United States or in Europe. That's true. But think about it. Again, if the sales you're making in Canada is less than $5 million, you've got a market there. And the tougher it is to, copy your drug, you can increase the amount of money you can make in Canada, and you won't get bothered. Myth number 9. The best way to introduce a medication in Canada, an orphan drug in Canada, is through a North American deal. Well, I respectfully disagree. A lot of European companies are telling me that. It's like when they want to license one of their orphan drug, they're thinking of, like a bucket, like Canada, United States. You put it together and you sell it. Actually, how it works is that it's an American company that will pay for it. And they're paying for the rights in the United States, and they get Canada for free. And most, like the big pharma, they're doing very well in Canada. And they are able to, use the SAP, Special Access Program. They are able to do it. But most pharmaceutical companies in the orphan world are small. So there's a lot of American companies that don't understand the specificity. They look at Canada as, well, it's about the size of California, so why should I bother, just like 34.5 million. And it's a bilingual country. It's complicated. Market access is difficult. So they will not spend the time. So what it means is chances are that if you're doing a North American deal, if you don't split the deal between Canada and the United States, what it means is you will not get the chance of getting revenue from one of the top 10 countries in the world. It's very slim. So what I recommend to you is like you split those deals. In conclusion, what I would like you to do is when you go back to your team, think about Canada. There's money to be made. It's an untapped market. So there's 3 reasons, I think, why you should think about Canada. One is that it's highly populated, 34.5 million people. 2, it's a high-price country. 3, and there's money to be made. So in reality, Canadian suffers for not having access to your medication. You can make money, and you can make a difference. Thank you.
Well, this is Benjamin Tsai from GD Pharma. I'm actually from a Taiwanese company. It's not really a question, but more of a comment. In Taiwan, has 23 million population, and the area coverage in the region is more than 200 million patients. 200 million people. We are always put in the very end of the market. People traditional to U.S., European, and Japan. There may be like Canada, and then the rest of the world. We were always 3 to 5, sometimes 10 years behind. So I just wanted to share my experience in the past 15 years doing this business. I heard you. I feel your pain, and we hope. But I think a good solution is, from my experience, like our company, we were the distributor for Genzyme, for Alexion, for even Shire products and BioMarine. If you have a competent local distributor, they can help you resolve all the problem. You don't really need to spend a whole lot of resource to access a premium market like Canada, or Taiwan, or even South Korea, and some of those countries. It's lost opportunity, and there is plenty of money to be made.
I cannot agree more. We're representing QL, Orphan Europe, all the product of Orphan Europe, Lucaine. We have now like 7 products that we're taking care of, and there's other companies that are coming to see us because they see that as it's easy. It's like a turnkey solution. I take care of everything, and you get your return on investment. And it's better to have that and having a return over the Canadian market than not having anything. out of one of the top 10 countries in the world. Any other question?
Other questions? One quick one, Eric. You mentioned the Orphan Drug Act, which will become effective June of next year.
I believe so.
Yeah. So one of your myths was market access is hell. That is a little bit true, quite a bit true actually. And the reason being, yes, there's the general assessment by CADET, but then also you have to negotiate province by province, multiple provinces, some being more difficult than others. With this passing of Orphan Drug Act, at least for the orphan disease area, do you see it becoming easier? Will it become kind of harmonized across the regions? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. That's a good news. As I said, the private payer are pulling together right now in order to be able to pay for those medication, high-price medication. The provinces are talking about it, and they would like to do something similar. I just hope that at one point, even though the envelope to pay the Medicare comes from the federal government, from Canada to the province, and they have to deal with it, I hope that at one point the Canadian government will have like an envelope of money just for orphan drugs to make sure that everyone has the same access in Canada. I see the future going that way. I think that what we're seeing right now is like the worst of what we're seeing. With every year, I believe that the market access problem will get smoother and smoother. We'll have less problem. But still today, we still have to continue to lobby each province in order to get our drug reimbursed, and this is labor intensive. But it'll be better sooner than later.
If there are no further questions, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.